This is the Creativity Show's live streams about how to find your passionate work and promote it. This is live stream 12, and it's about how to hone your writing or any type of work. I'm Clare Cooley, and I want to thank you for being here and thank the Minnesota State Arts Board and the National Endowment for the Arts for the grant to do these 15 live streams. The previous 11 have all been on this subject of finding and promoting your passionate work, writing. My book, Incandescence, Rising Above Darkness, my memoir, is what got the notice of the granting organizations to give me this grant to talk about finding and promoting your passion project. And whether it's writing, as many of you know, I'm a multimedia artist. I love to pretty much make everything I can. I love to make jewelry, clothes, dishes, home decor. I started actually as dance, and my first teaching in my 20s was a way to learn to dance for joy. And then dancing into the arts was a curriculum I wrote for the public schools when I was an artist. This is this is my son, Bodie. He's the techie. Thank goodness. I'm so grateful for him because technology is the area I'm not adept in. And hi, Instagram. So I am so grateful to have his other half of the creation promotion formula, which is the technology. That's where he really shines and loves to keep learning more and more. So we get to share these with you, which is really wonderful. I'm the hands-on artist. He's the technology artist. So together we're a good team. And that's one of the subjects of today's talk, which is about how to hone our work, whether it's writing, any kind of creation, whether you consider it artistic, craft, service. All these principles apply, but the writing is what I'm mostly going to focus this on, but these principles apply to any type of creative endeavor. And so what I want to say to begin is that we are, anything we wish to create, our best work is authentic. It's how to manifest our best work is aligning with our inspiration, what we're genuinely curious about, what we're passionate about. And it's aligning with our inspiration is a powerful path to following our passion is the way to create our most compelling work. And in writing, they call it, finding your own voice, the voice no one else has but you. And that is whether you're painting or making muffins or home decor, making jewelry, making any sort of design creation, you are what no one else can give the world. Your perspective, your essence, your aesthetic, your style, your voice.
Want me to turn on the fireplace?
It's all right.
It's up to you. It's really not a problem.
Sure, go ahead. And he's going to turn on the fireplace in front of you guys, so you get to see our gas fireplace. It's we do these from Duluth, Minnesota, so it's really cozy to have a gas fireplace in this over 100-year-old home we restored ourselves. We have that video up on polishing the Emerald Lady, our home. We did all the restoration ourselves with a little help from my sweet cousin who built his own home, who taught us how to build a retaining wall and pour a cement slab and some electrical and things like that. But everything else we researched on the internet. Hopefully that's how you found me or us. So we're Mother-Son Productions. My son, Bodhi, the movie maker, his YouTube channel, mine, The Creativity Show. He asked me to work with him and named us Mother-Son Productions. And here we are producing, hopefully help you videos. Mine are, all kinds of different creativity. His are mostly about technology, though he's also written a 100,000 word novel. So we'll share that at the end of this. But back to, we create for our own satisfaction and education and healing and sense of connection, sometimes to our ancestors or our culture or the mysteries of the universe or one another. But sharing it fulfills us, and we can't share it unless we finish something. So that is one of the hard parts of being a creative, is completing it. There's so much doubt and criticism we all have. You can't be a thinking person without having heard so much negativity and competitiveness, sometimes jealousy, greed, lust, all sorts of negative, down-putting, controlling. I call it fear-based control. So we have to face those to bring our own work out to the world. But it is so worth it. For the strength it gives us, it's very liberating to face our fears and vanquish them. And it is so deeply satisfying, gratifying to share our work with others that I can't really express in words how moving it is for me to have shared my memoir, because people ask me to write my story saying they help them, and have complete strangers find it and contact me and let me know that my stories of Incandescence, Rising Above Darkness, have helped them to rise above their darkness. We all have it. We all have disappointments, struggles, some of us abuse, some of us, really difficult things. But, pain and struggle is pain and struggle. And we all have it to rise above. The whole world does. And if we can find peace, we increase peace in the world. So that's a beautiful thing, especially now. No better time than now to increase peace in ourselves and thus in the world. So letting our genuine curiosity be our guide. What are we curious about? That's where your best work is going to come from. The authentic inspiration and passion we have leads us to our most poignant creations. And our instincts can be a map to guide us to our unique expression that no one else can do because they're not us. And no one can create what we can create. So the more authentic we are, the more we speak with, paint with, design with, whatever we're creating, the more we come from our own aesthetic, our own style, our own essence, the more powerful, more unique, the more valuable it can be for others. We can't follow anyone else to arrive at ourselves. We can follow technique to learn some things. That's not my forte. My story is, I stopped participating in school regularly at 7 years old. I didn't read a book till I was 21. So I am not academically educated. I try to learn from everyone I meet and from observing life around me. So I am, as one person said, an autodidact. And I said, what is that? And they said, well, self-taught. I said, well, you can't tell an autodidact that they're an autodidact and expect them to understand it if they're unacademically exposed. So yes, I am an autodidact, self-taught. My classically trained artist mother graduated, from a beautiful art school connected to the museum in Boston, consummately educated, well-read, everything I'm not, but she would not tell me technique. She said, you follow your own rules, your own instincts, and you that's your way. And so if you learn the rules, you just have to forget them. And that's true that everyone, in order to come into their own unique expression, whether they learn the rules or not, and I'm certainly not suggesting you don't learn the rules, that works really well for some people, but to get to you, you have to forget all the rest of it and just allow your unique expression to come out. That's what makes you special, is you. And your singular expression, it comes, especially for writing, comes from listening to ourselves, giving ourselves the respect that what we're saying is worth listening to. And I was blessed with a mother who always listened to me as if what I was saying was important. And certainly there's been a lot of other criticism in the world around me, fear-based controllers, but her respect for me gave me a foundation, and that is what I operate from, that foundation of that I have my own value, and everyone does. And everyone adds value to the world when you are giving yourself who you are, who you genuinely are, what you genuinely are curious and passionate about to the world. And that, is where, in my opinion, especially artistic projects should start with what you're passionate about, what inspires, what makes you curious, what fulfills you to investigate, explore, and express. So accepting ourselves and speaking with our honesty and facing our unique fears. There's a lot of universal fears. Am I ever going to be good enough? Who cares what I have to say, what I write about? Those are very universal. We all have to face those. And that is, it's worth looking that dragon in the eye and stepping over our doubts and having faith that what we may even think of as confusing in the beginning of a creative process, writing, can lead to understanding. Just let it flow and don't judge and constrain yourself with, I need to know exactly where this is going. Just begin, step into the creative flow and let it lead you. I've said this in a number of these live streams, that it's medically documented, scientifically proven that stepping into the creative flow increases our happiness. And so there you go. Even if it doesn't end up being a writing that you want to publish or share, or even read again, it still has positive benefits in that stepping into that creative flow increases our happiness. So face your doubts and have the faith that what may be like, why am I writing about this, could lead to understanding why this is something that was in your mind and heart, and get some clarity and perspective and learn from it. Let it teach us by writing, journaling, is a great way to start. Just let it pour and, step back from it and maybe return to it with some objectivity and see what's there that intrigues you, and then explore that. And we have to fully accept ourselves to really get to the unique, beautiful, one-of-a-kind expression that is us. Each one of us is a unique expression, and our imagination is like no one else's. Our creative urges are unique to us, and the less we are concerned about what other people will think, what is it going to be good enough? Are other people going to approve of it or us? The less we're concerned about that, and the more we just give ourselves permission to express, the more powerful our work becomes. And getting there is greatly increased by finding a qualified and uncompromised person to give us constructive criticism, and true, positive feedback, honest reflection. And my mother, my first creative advocate, I would say, could be, thank you, Mr. Technical just came and adjusted something. My mother could say very critical things that I never took offense at. It always came from love, even when I didn't want to hear it, even when it was something that was upsetting to hear. It never offended me. It always helped me, because her only agenda was to help me. And I knew that, and I trusted that. And I was very fortunate to have that, which many people don't, in their family or in their close associates. But you can find it. There is someone or a few out there that can be that. We sometimes have to be very active and put out energy and initiate finding that sort of advocacy. It is beautiful, and it can be very rare. And so when you find it, treasure it. And it often happens that it's mutual, that you help one another. Like with my son and I, we help one another hone our creative ideas. And the best way to do that is, if someone is asking for your feedback, your reflection on their work, ask questions. Don't give them opinions about it. If something isn't enough information for you to feel it, to be moved by it, to understand it, ask questions. Let them hear your need for more information, and do with that what they will, because it is their creative process. And we're going to talk a little bit more about that in a couple minutes here. Real creativity requires that it means we're unshielded. It's our imaginations, our creative urges, and manifestations are our most vulnerable place. It's our unshielded, unguarded, authentic place. And so it's very, very important to make certain that while you're creating, when it's done, but that's a different time. But while we're creating, that we do not let downputters, jealous, competitive, fear-based people that may be jealous that you faced your fears and you're creating, and they haven't faced theirs, and so they're not bringing their specialness out to the world. And unfortunately, there's a lot of that. We live in a highly competitive world. And so be very careful who you let close during that tender time when you're opening up to accept and let flow your genuine expression, finding your voice, your aesthetic, whether it's writing or painting or design. Just protect your sweet and vulnerable, tender spirit. And it doesn't matter how tough you might be in life or how strong you are, that place is tender and vulnerable. And that's what's beautiful about it. It's a sensitive, highly feeling, highly easily impacted. So be careful who you let close. Find someone unimpeachable. Find someone totally trustworthy to share when you're ready, and then open to their what they feel, what they see, what they are moved by, what confuses them, what they want more of, what they'd like less of. Just be open to hearing their response, and then you need to ruminate on it before you change just because they said something, that it is still authentically you, because sometimes the feedback is inappropriate, and sometimes you say, well, thank you for sharing that, but you keep going in the direction you feel instinctively that you should be going with some creation, and then later they come back and say, oh, now I understand. So it's nobody's always right, including me. So we should only and always, in the creating time, be careful about who we let have an influence on us. And creating is opening up. So that's why I say it's such a tender place, because when we're open, we're open. So if we let someone close that's got negative, ideas, isn't coming from helping us, but coming from trying to hold us back for their own selfish reasons, it's going to have a profound effect on us. So protect during the creative process, and then when you get to done, which we'll talk about in one of these live streams before we get to 15. This is 12, so we have 3 more. All of them are up on the Creativity Show. As soon as they're done as a live stream, they go up on the Creativity Show, so you can see all of them. The first 10 were really about marketing, promoting, I would say, the work. And then these last 5 are more about creating the work. So this one about how constructive it can be to have someone we really trust to share it with. And it's very important to have objectivity, get perspective breaks. And that's what sharing with someone who's got no hidden agendas, someone who is purely 100% unconditionally our advocate. It's a perspective, it's a different view on our own work. So that's a very, very important to get those perspective breaks. Another thing I do is I go from writing to some sort of visual, like I'm going to share some, like there's these stencil on the outfit, orchids. I don't know how well Instagram can see that, but this, I stencil on clothing, I make jewelry, I hit stencil on these cards, my stencil designs, which Bodhi has recently made into SVGs that are one after another coming out as something that they're scalable vector graphics that you can purchase and put these stencils on on fabric, on walls, on whatever you like. And I've got lots of videos about how to stencil and different ways to use it, like these beautiful note cards for any occasion. And so I go back and forth between visual art and writing, movement, sound, to keep perspective and to keep refreshing myself, instead of overthinking it. Maybe you want to get this guy because I don't know if I'm even on it. I'll come back and sit down. There we go. Hi, Instagram. Sorry, left you for a moment, but I'm back. And so I like to keep it moving, keeps going from one thing to another. Um, dance a little, play a little flute, paint a little, go back to writing. Keep it, keep that perspective, which is what other people can give us. And now we're going to invite Bodhi to come in and talk about the experience of we give each other that kind of feedback and reflection on ideas or work, in our creativity. So hi, Bo. You want to talk about
Hello.
what's it like to share an idea that, your image from a dream that turned into 100,000 word novel, and how
Yeah,
that happened?
sure, sure. And thank you to the Minnesota State Arts Board and the National Endowment for the Arts for supporting the second novel in that series. So, and the ARAC for the short film that's coming up based on that series. So, yeah, how one idea can go from an image in a nightmare to a whole story world that has impacted a lot of people's lives. There's a community around it. We've hired voice actors to work on the film. Um, and we're going to be putting out auditions for the audiobook. We're kind of making like a podcast radio play out of it where each character is going to be played by a different person. There's going to be sound effects and Foley and background music. Um, so yeah, I mean, it all comes from, I was very in agreement with what you were talking about how you got to share with the right people who will support you and give you constructive criticism in a delicate way, in the way that works the best for you, not just for them. And I've been very fortunate that you have a lot of experience with nurturing people's creativity and using your empathy to help people improve. So, I was able to tell you this story about a monster that eats people, and it's totally not the kind of thing you're really normally interested in talking about or thinking about. You enjoy movies and scary movies from time to time, just like I do, but you were being very generous with your time to allow me to, spend it talking about monsters and stuff, and then to give me constructive feedback about the idea and ask really helpful questions. Um, that's what helped me take it to the next level of discovering all sorts of ideas within my first initial idea. And I think that's what it takes is bounce your ideas off of somebody who will see that it's important to you and act accordingly. They will not poop on your idea. They won't poop on your enthusiasm. And even if it's not their taste, not their kind of thing, they'll go along with you enjoying yourself and they'll want to support that. And if you don't stifle somebody early, their idea that's purely a flight of fancy could become a novel, could become short films, could become a community. It could impact their life and other people's lives. So you never want to be the person who squishes somebody's inspiration. You never know what it could become.
Great.
Yeah.
Thank you for sharing that. Um, Bodhi and I had you know, 100,000 words is a lot of words. So what we called a lay down and listen. I have a massage pad. When he would want to read me a big section of his writing, I would lay on the massage pad and he would read it, and I could give him my feedback while relaxing. And in the beginning, when I had questions, editorial suggestions, I would stop him and say it. And then the further it went along, the less there were. I would just try to remember. And I'd like to train my memory, you know, in different ways that help make life more functional and fun. So I would just count up the number of different editorial suggestions I'd have in this big passage so I could hear the whole flow of writing. And I'd say, okay, there were 3. And then somehow with my memory, I would associate word 1, number 1 with 1 word, number 2 with 1 word, number 3 with 1 word. And that's all I had to remember. So I could keep listening to the flow without interrupting him. And it got to the point where, you know, when the work was really refined, there were either no suggestions or so few that I could listen to a huge portion of the work. And that gives you an idea that, you know, you're making progress, and the less times you have to stop and correct something. Did you
Yeah.
want to say something about
I
that?
wanted to add something in there.
Yeah.
You know, I often think about this from the perspective of the person who's giving feedback to the creative. It's kind of their responsibility to be empathetic and not squish the creative person's thing, you know? But it's also important to look from the other perspective. And me as the writer, when I was asking you to listen to chapter after chapter, you know, sometimes reading for an hour or more at a time, that's a big ask of somebody. Or if you're asking somebody to read your novel, so doing everything you can as the writer or the artist to make it as easy and enjoyable as possible for the person you're asking feedback from, including if it's in person, figuring out how to make them comfortable and have an enjoyable environment. Like you've got this massage pad you can lay on, and you can be relaxed and completely passively just listening, or you know, take them someplace nice and or go on a drive. So we had the ride and reads, the lay down and listens. You know, let your listener get them as comfortable as possible, and if they fall asleep, you know, that's an indicator of the quality of your writing. You might need to punch it up a little bit, and that happened a few times, and I didn't take it personal. It's better to it's better for your listener to enjoy themselves than for you to get every last millisecond of their attention.
Right.
And you need to figure out how to make your work a party for the people that you get to collaborate on it, especially if you're asking them to volunteer their time.
Right. Right. Well, we also have a thing besides the lay down and listen for the long passages, the write and read. Um, so obviously the driver is listening and the passenger is reading, but we also have what we call walk and talks. We take walks every day for exercise and fresh air and views, and that's when we talk about our ideas. So that I call them our moving production meetings. So that's when we talk about things we're figuring out, either in writing, you know, Bodie will often tell me while he was writing the book what he was thinking about for the next scene, the next chapter, and I would listen and ask questions if there were things that didn't make sense to me, or as a way to encourage him to write more about that character or that scene. So there's the walk and talk, write and read, and lay down and listen. And I wholeheartedly agree that if people are helping you, making it, if they're volunteering their time and attention, to make it something that they also get something wonderful, views, relaxation, fresh air, exercise, something that is rewarding. And I love these, I spend a lot of time listening to podcasts. And so I have all these bits of information, and I never repeat them unless I really trust the source, but I definitely trust the source of the information that while moving, our brains work better. And doesn't matter what age we are, it is good for cognitive abilities to have movement. And so that's why the walk and talks are a good brainstorming time. So we do that. I think we're ready for questions. Bo, if you've
Yep.
got some queued
Got a
up.
few.
I
Yep.
love it when people send in questions. I love to ask questions. And I love to try to answer them. It takes me in a new direction, and I really appreciate that. Comments, questions. And I really appreciate it when you tell a friend the best way to promote anything we're doing is to have people that are moved or helped by something we say, share it with someone that trusts them to open up to it. So thank you for sharing with a friend.
Great. We do have some questions. So MB said, "Yay! Always happy to see a new live stream by Claire. And your set is so cozy. Is that your home? Do you set up each week, or is that the way it always looks?"
Yes, it's our home, the Emerald Lady, and yes, it is the way it looks. And other than we have some lights that we don't usually have on in here for the rest of the time, this is the way it looks in this season. But as Bodie said in the last live stream, I think it was, when he was a little boy, he said, "Mom, is our house always going to change?" And I said, "Well, yeah. Is that okay with you?" "Oh, yeah, I like it," he said. But I said, "Well, then how come you asked?" And he said, "Well, because the other kids, their houses always look the same. You walk in and there's a TV on in front of a couch nobody's sitting on." And I thought that was a really funny perception for a little boy. But the reason I brought that up is this is the gift giving season adornments, and then there'll be spring and summer and autumn. I love the seasons. And in fact, my next big artistic project is called Essence of Everything, based on the four seasons, where I'm painting floor to ceiling scrolls, doing prose, flute music, and dance on skates, all inspired by the seasons. So I love the seasons and the seasonal changes. So the home changes, the creativity in it keeps me from tuning anything out. And I love to keep decorating and keep it transforming. So there you go.
Delightful.
Thanks for that question. I appreciate it.
Yeah. And then Valone asked on YouTube, When people ask me for feedback on their art, I am often scared to give any critique, so I usually hold myself back and only say the positive things. Do you have any advice for how to share constructive criticism in a way that won't be taken the wrong way?
That's a beautiful question. Thank you for asking it. Thank you for thinking of it. That means that you are an empathetic, kind person, that you would even think of that question. So what I would say is always pretty much until you're really safe with somebody. And even then, it's best to share the positive stuff first, and then, you know, shore them up, let them know that you appreciate that what they're doing, and that you see value in it, and that you're moved that they trust you to share it. And then once they feel shored up and strengthened by your response, you can, you know, go carefully into the part that some people can take offense to, and take it nice and slow, and see and ask them if they're ready for some suggestions, that and give them one and see how they take it. And then if there's something else that you can shore them up with before you give them another. So just be kind. Think empathy is basically putting yourself in the other person's shoes. How much would you want to hear? How much could you take gracefully? How much are you ready for? And sometimes, especially if they've been damaged, as a creativity coach, I've worked with lots of people that have, you know, been really damaged by harsh things people have said to them. And so they have to heal that first and get stronger before they're ready for, you know, constructive criticism. And sometimes you have to establish a relationship with them first, them trusting you come from love, and that you want them, this, everything you say comes from, you want them to grow and get stronger and better. So sometimes that requires patience. It always requires patience. So I've had a lot of people. I managed a restaurant many years ago that they asked me to curate the shows that went up in the restaurant, and throughout my life, a number of people bring me things that are really hard sometimes to find anything constructive to say. So I have believed this, that it's true that expressing any emotion stimulates our immune system. So just expressing it is healing. So that's good. And I usually go back to myself if I'm seeing some art or writing or whatever it is that's really not ready, in my opinion, to be exhibited or published. I come back to myself and say, I've done a lot of journaling that doesn't even make sense to me now. It did it at the time, I needed to pour it out, but it doesn't even make sense to me now in retrospect. So it definitely wouldn't help other people or be appreciated by other people, but it's always worth doing. So that's, I go back to me instead of telling them that their work is not ready to be shared. I try to never go there. I just say expressing is healing, and I've had to do a lot of that in my life. And they, you know, smart people can figure out that that's where they're at, in your opinion. but I just talk about me and my work and my feelings and how many journals I wrote before I dared write a story that I thought I was going to share with the world. So there you go. Hope that helps.
Great. Yeah, great distillation. And then we got another one here. What is your favorite way to receive feedback, like in-person conversation, or do you ask people to look at your work, think about it, and write their feedback?
Well, I can't say that I have a, a favorite way, but I think that writing about writing, well, writing about any type of work that we're giving feedback on, can be very, very gracious in that a person can read it when they're ready, and they can read however much they're ready to take in and receive. Whereas if we're in person with them, then they can't graciously step away from us and say, it's very hard to say I'm not ready for this. But if you send it to them with, read when you're ready. There are some constructive criticism in here, but my only agenda is to help you. And so, start with the positive stuff and then move into the more critical stuff and end with some positive stuff, thanking them for trusting you to give them feedback. It's an honor to be asked to give feedback. So start and end with that acknowledgement and give them the opportunity of reading it when they're ready. I think is a really lovely thing to do. You can, depending on how well you know a person and what your relationship is, you can say, is this a good time to give you feedback if you're in person with them? And don't need to. It's not about you, it's about them. So let them open up to it when they're ready and how. And would you prefer me writing it to you or telling you on the phone or seeing you in person? What works the best for you? Ask them. Yeah. So hopefully that's of some assistance.
Hey, yeah,
I
you
love
covered
thinking about what you guys ask me. It's really beautiful.
you covered all of them. That was you got it. I think that was great. And again, if
Fabulous.
I missed any of the questions you guys asked on one of the platforms, I'll copy and paste it into next week's live stream. We've got Instagram, Twitter, LinkedIn, Patreon, YouTube, Facebook,
Wow. Yeah.
and yeah.
So I wanted I wanted to talk about before we wrap this one up. Well, first of all, I'll be back Monday at 11 Central Time and Thursday next week, 11 Central Time. And after these 15 are done, this is 12, so we have 3 more. I'm going to go right into decorating, seasonal decorating, gift giving season, the season of increasing the light from within. um, Decorating in an economical and ecological way. So we'll be doing tours of the Emerald Lady and the different things that I do, usually from either found or donated stuff that other people would, send to the landfill. I try to make into beautiful things. So we'll go right into that after 15 on these. But oh, I had something I was going to share that slipped my mind. Well, that happens. And let's see if it comes back in a couple seconds here. Oh, yes, it's back. I really appreciate doing these because it's helped me face my doubts and fears. It's very hard to get in front of a camera for me. It's very hard for me to speak up. I am a woman in a sexist world. And one of the constructive criticisms my mother gave me young, it wasn't really criticism, it was just perspective. She said, some women had said some really cruel things to me, and I was very upset about it. And she said, well, they misunderstand your confidence for conceit. And I thought, wow, that's really sad that in this sexist world, if a woman is confident, she's not trusted. If a man is confident, he's trusted. But if a woman is, she's considered, that terrible word that female dogs that take care of their young and are so loyal is turned into this horrible insult. But you're called many nasty things by people if you're a confident woman. But I am confident about the little bit I know in the immense universe of things I don't know. And one of those things is love is it. And being ourselves is our right. And in my opinion, our duty, because each one of us has something of value to help the world. And finding it is a joyous, if not difficult journey. But I am confident about that. And but it's very hard to speak up. It's very hard to dress up. As a young woman, I pretty much only and always wore handmade needle and thread, baggy muslin, no color, no jewelry, no makeup. And I still don't fix my hair. I just let it grow. But now I will wear color and fancy clothes and jewelry and makeup. And that's hard for me. I'm afraid of attention, and I'm afraid of not getting attention. That's the world we live in. So doing these live streams helps me face my fear and put myself out there, my stories, my art, my philosophy. So thank you for being part of helping me face my doubts and fears and get stronger and lighter as I let them go. So may it inspire you to do the same. Face your doubts and fears and be yourself and give it to this world that needs you, needs all of us. And the more creative enthusiasm, the more peaceful creative reverie, the more likely we are to address the enormous issues we have. But I have extreme faith and hope that we can come together in what brings us together. What we have in common is we all want to be safe and loved and respected, and focus on that instead of divisiveness. It doesn't matter what religious belief system we have, it's the way we act that matters. So be kind to others, be kind to yourself, and bring your love out into the world.
Beautiful. Fantastic.
So thank you for being here. And please tell a friend and come back next Monday or check them out on YouTube, The Creativity Show, anytime you like. All right. Thank you. And thanks, Minnesota State Arts Board and National Endowment for the Arts for believing in me that I could help you. And I hope I have.
All right. Bye, everybody.